Okay, what's going on? Vincent Repisardi, BigBlueUnbiased.com. So yesterday announced I'm back. Thank you for the comments. Very nice comments in the prior video. I took about a 2-month break, but now I'm back. So let's talk about the Giants. Let's talk about some football. I've taken a break from some football as well. Wanted to get away a little bit, but we're back. Okay, so according to Dan Duggan, there is optimism that Nate Solder will return for the Giants this upcoming season. Right now his cap hit is at $16.5 million. That is going to have to be reduced. They're going to have to figure something out there. I know a lot of people were not a big fan of Nate Solder during Daniel Jones' rookie season. Gave up a lot of sacks, a lot of pressures. As I had shown in one specific video and talked about many times over, a lot of those pressures and sacks kind of had to do with Daniel Jones holding onto the football for a long time. His pocket presence wasn't really there as a rookie. I think it improved last year. I definitely think Daniel Jones, the numbers at the end of the day, at the end of his season last year, were not completely impressive. But at the same time, you lose Saquon Barkley, a pretty young offensive line that struggled for most of the season, started to play better towards the end of the year, further into the season. No Barkley, young offensive line that struggled for a while. Darius Slayton really didn't develop into a wide receiver one where many thought maybe he could, especially a good start in his first game against the Steelers, but never really developed into that kind of player. It looks like he's more of a wide receiver too. And look, as a former fifth-round pick, if that's what you can get for him, if that's what he becomes, that's pretty good. So that's where the Giants currently stand with that situation. But Nate Solder did not play. Okay, he did not play last season. A lot of criticism in Jones' rookie season with Nate Solder giving up sacks and pressures. But if you look at his pass block win rate, really wasn't that bad. He really wasn't that bad. Kind of an average left tackle. People expected more because he got paid a lot of money. His cap hit is going to have to change. They're going to have to restructure his contract and change things up. And I think the Giants actually have some leverage here because Solder didn't play last season. It's going to be tough to as a player like Nate Solder to warrant that kind of money, missing an entire year of football. And right now, being an average left tackle, that's kind of who he is. Again, people expected more out of him because of his contract, but at best, he's a slightly above average left tackle. You miss an entire season. I definitely think the Giants have an advantage in bringing Solder back at a reduced cap hit. Work something out with his contract. It's tough because this is kind of a situation you don't really see too often, where a player just takes off an entire season after the whole COVID thing. So we'll see what happens there. But a cap hit of $16.5 million, that is going to have to change. And again, people are not in love with Nate Solder. I understand he's not Walter Jones, but if Nate Solder can be kind of a solid backup, or maybe even he starts the season at right tackle if they don't feel like Matt Parrott is ready to go right away at right tackle, or whatever they feel like doing, he's still a good guy to have depth. And, this is kind of a make-or-break year for Daniel Jones. You want to make sure that you kind of put all the pieces around him and you give him a solid supporting cast, because this really is a make-or-break season. He has to play well, and there's talk of maybe Kenny Galladay signing with the Giants. Obviously a big play receiver, really good wide receiver, just needs to stay healthy. I'll get into that in another video. But if they get a player like Kenny Galladay, if they spend a first-round pick on their offense in whatever form that might be, if that's maybe Kyle Pitts, the tight end out of Florida, whoever it might be. At this point, it's about giving Daniel Jones as many weapons and as good of an offense as possible, so he can go out next season and this upcoming season, and you can see what you have in him. You got to see what you have in him. Former 6th overall pick. It's do or die for Daniel Jones this upcoming year. Kevin Zeitler was released. That saved the Giants about $12 million in cap space, and that's something I talked about before last season. And I got some pushback on it. I tweeted it out, which, by the way, I'm not on Twitter anymore. Follow me on Telegram, Big Blue Unbiased on Telegram, and Instagram. We're going to start moving content to those two channels. So prior to last season, I said Kevin Zeitler, they can save a good amount of money if they release him, especially with the whole COVID thing. The salary cap's at about $182 million, so the Giants' cap situation isn't ideal at the moment. If you release a guy like Zeitler, you save a lot of money. They save $12 million in cap space. And at the time, I got a lot of pushback. A lot of people were like, you don't just release Kevin Zeitler. That's just stupid. And I'm like, well, look, at that time, Nick Gates, you didn't really know if he was going to be the guy at center. So I'm like, okay, well, they just signed Nick Gates to a pretty team-friendly contract. If he needs to play right guard, you can do that. Obviously, Shane Lemieux had his ups and his downs as a rookie, but I think they feel fairly comfortable with him potentially being a starter. So you got that. You got Shane Lemieux. If Nate Solder's back, all of a sudden, at least you have a couple of options at tackle. You can move forward with Shane Lemieux. With Will Hernandez, you got your 2 starting guards, Nick Gates as your center. And if they want to spend another draft pick, maybe, let's just say, a 4th-round pick. Or a 5th-round pick on a guard. Go for it. Or maybe they sign a veteran sometime later in camp, whatever it might be. But Kevin Zeitler kind of had to be released. And again, that's something I talked about last year, and a lot of people were not fond of that idea, but that's a lot of cap space you save. And Kevin Zeitler's a good player, but you kind of got to weigh it out. Is Kevin Zeitler that valuable at a cap number of like $14.5 million as opposed to Shane Lemieux? You can just kind of play Shane Lemieux, former 5th-round pick, on a rookie contract, a rookie deal, getting paid peanuts. Is it really that big of a difference between those two players that you're willing to pay that much money for Kevin Zeitler? I think going with Shane Lemieux makes the most sense at this point. And again, they have some flexibility. I don't want to say Nate Solder can play guard because I have no idea, but who knows? Who knows? We know that Joe Judge has been very open with moving players around on the offensive line. Who knows? Maybe Nate Solder does play some guard. I know that sounds kind of stupid. He's basically been a tackle his entire career. But I don't know. Maybe they try that out. Who knew that Eric Flowers would go from, a very bad offensive tackle to a pretty decent guard? He's a pretty good guard. He got paid pretty well by Miami to be a guard. And who knows? Maybe Nate Solder can step in if they need him at guard. I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm just putting out ideas. They can still use a draft pick on a guard if they like, or maybe later in camp they sign a veteran free agent to at least give themselves some depth. So that's basically that. That's all I'm going to cover in this video. Just some offensive line stuff, cap stuff. We'll move forward. Again, we got the draft. That's going to be coming up very soon. A lot of stuff to cover there. Free agency, all the good stuff. This is the fun part in the off season. So thanks for watching. Vincent Rapisardi, Big Blue, Unbiased.com.